State here, Joyful Parenting Coaching. Got the question of whether or not we should pay our kids for good grades and or punish them for bad grades. And great question. Please, no, please do not pay your children for good grades. And don't pay them for bad grades. Don't punish them for bad grades. What is our goal at the end of the day? I hope that your goal at the end of the day is to create a lifelong learner, one who is intrinsically interested in finding new knowledge and in engaging the world in an intellectual way. If grades are a question of pay and punishment, everything's external. Everything is about you and either pleasing you or not pleasing you, and nothing is about them and what they're truly interested in learning. Now, we all know that most schools, there's a great deal of it, which is just about dotting I's and crossing T's. And especially with middle school kids, it is super hard to convince them that it's worth it to do it because they know their grades don't count for anything in so many cases. Right? Maybe if they're going to private high school, they count. Going from a public middle school to a public high school, really grades don't count at all, and most kids know that. So they look at dotting I's and crossing T's as a colossally stupid waste of time. You know, you can allow some leeway for that and some understanding for that, and, you know, at the same time, we try to help our kids see that, paying taxes, that's pretty much dotting I's and crossing T's. Filling out other kinds of forms, making things happen. It's not stuff we love to do. It's not intrinsically interesting. I know somebody who does taxes is going to say, like, no, it's great fun doing taxes. It's like a puzzle. So forgive me if I just maligned the act of doing taxes. At the same time, the basic idea of those kinds of things are not intrinsically rewarding. And when we pay for kids for good grades or we punish them for bad grades, we are setting it up as an external thing that they have to do just to please their parent. Okay, so the question remains then, especially with the poor grades, how do we go from semester A to semester B where there have been poor grades and we would like to see better grades? The conversation I would like you to have with your child would focus on what did they do well, where were things easy, what systems and routines do they have in place for doing well. That would be a part of the conversation. And start with the positive, and then have the conversation of going, okay, well, where you didn't do well, what were the challenges? And what you're really looking for is to get a sense of whether or not the poor grade was, this is stupid, I blew it off, I'm overwhelmed by the content and I don't actually have the skills that I need to succeed in this class. Or here's something that happens, and that is that very often a middle school student can focus in and do well in 1, 2, or 3 classes, but to try to keep the balls up into the air for 5 or 6 classes becomes overwhelming. And so kids usually approach it in one of 2 ways. Either they keep 3 balls up and they drop 3 balls completely. That would be like, A's and F's, B's and C's, or B's and D's even, or everything sort of comes down to a middling level. So it comes down to, C's and B's. So your child could do better. They've done better in the past. But the fact of the matter is that their adolescent brain, which is overwhelmed by other concerns and questions, it might be really hard for them to keep 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 balls in the air at the same time. So what you're doing is detective work about where are things kind of falling down. And then you want to come up with a plan not to go from where they are to straight A's, because if you approach it that way, especially if the child is feeling, if they've blown things off, maybe. But chances are they've blown things off because of the two choices, like I tried my best and I failed, or I blew things off, so I failed. The I blew things off, so I failed option is easier on the ego, right? If you try your very best and you don't get the grades that you want to get, that's a big hit to your ego. So that's maybe why you choose to blow things off. So tread with caution. A lot of middle school kids they're surprised themselves and they're disappointed in themselves because they think they could do better and they're not taking into account the construction going on in their prefrontal cortex. The construction that says, things which used to be easy, like keeping track of stuff, is no longer easy. Middle school kids also have an enlarged amygdala. That means their emotional center is getting more attention right now than their prefrontal cortex. They're used to having a functioning prefrontal cortex. Now that it's under construction, it feels weird and off to them, and they are aware of disappointing you, and they are disappointing themselves. So tread gently. Go at it with the attitude of, what can we shift or change to just lift things up in the right direction? You can have another conversation at the quarter mark or at the trimester mark, right? But right now, just see where things can shift and be sure to leave your own anxiety at the door, right? If you're going like, he's failing middle school, he's never going to make it in high school. First of all, can I please reassure you of the number of kids where in middle school we have been going, what are we going to do with this kid? And then 9th grade, they're like, whoosh, off and running, flying even. And coming back to tell their teacher with delight, Mrs. Stitt, I'm getting straight A's. And you're kind of going, what? How did that happen? So there's so many factors going on here. Do some detective work, but tread lightly and do it with a lot of reassurance. And if you have any questions, make a post or PM me. Thanks very much.